Hello and welcome to Beyond the Game. Red Faction Guerrilla was released in 2009 and was a look into the future on how destructible gaming worlds would be like. By now, we all realized that actually never happened. Red Faction Guerrilla still is the only game with this kind of destruction. After many years of absence since the release of Red Faction Armageddon, we finally get to play Red Faction again. No new title, but a remastered version of Red Faction Guerrilla. Of course, the power of the consoles has increased drastically over the last generation, but is it noticeable? Yes and no. The game still looks like the original release. No new character models or new additions are to be found here. What we do get, however, is that the game runs at a constant 60 frames per second. The PS4 Pro and Xbox One X even have the ability to play the game in 4K. The only real noticeable change here is the shadow quality that looks much sharper, and the game overall looks a bit better in the texture department. Red Faction Guerrilla lets you explore Mars in an open world environment. Mars is divided in multiple sections and each section gets harder and harder, and they all have a different look to them. It is still an open world you can, if you wish, explore freely. Mars itself, however, looks really barren. You have your outposts here and there, but for most it consists out of large stretches of roads and, well, nothing. What we do get in return, however, is the destructibility. You see, every building you see can be destroyed, piece by piece, and buildings will never collapse the same way. The technology behind it is still stunning. Walls can be blown up, you can smash holes in buildings with your sledgehammer, and basically, if you plan it correctly, you can use a building as a weapon to let it collapse on everybody who's inside. This technology is unfortunately still not used in games besides the likes of Battlefield franchise that only uses a very stripped down version of this. In the sound department, really nothing has changed. It is not necessarily a bad thing, as most people who played the original would probably like it that way. However, the game could have benefited from an overhauled soundtrack. The futuristic guns do still sound good, and the heavy rumble sound of a building that's about to collapse still does the game justice. Fun fact here is that Alec Mason is voiced by none other than Troy Baker. He is instantly recognizable, which is pretty fun. Other voice actors and sound effects like the cars or the environmental sound of a dust storm all do their job just fine here. The game starts when your character Alec Mason arrives on Mars to start a new life. His brother, who's also working on Mars, tells him how the Earth Defense Force on Mars is cruel to people and if he wants to join a guerrilla known as Red Faction. Soon after the conversation, his brother gets shot by the EDF and it's up to you to start pushing the EDF back to free Mars from its oppression. Like mentioned earlier, Mars is divided into sections that need to be cleared of the Earth Defense Force power. You do this by simply destroying everything you see. This will be made a lot easier as you come to most places during your main quest or side quests. Whenever you destroy a building, you collect rubble, which is featured as the game's currency. Blowing up outposts is still a really fun thing to do, and it's the main focus of the game. There is a large downside, however, and that's the respawning enemies. Back in 2009, this concept was part of a lot of games, but it just doesn't work well anymore. Constantly you are being surrounded by enemies until you destroy the outpost. Once that's done, all of a sudden the respawning stops. While shooting your way across Mars, you can carry up to 4 weapons at a time. From a pistol to futuristic rifles or even explosives, and they are all pretty fun to use. Ammo, however, is scarce and it can be a problem sometimes when taking over an outpost. Enemies drop ammo when they're dead, but it's just not enough. That means that sometimes you will find yourself rampaging with your sledgehammer like a psycho to find ammo. Not a bad thing, but it can make the game feel difficult at certain points. Also, the gravity is of course on Mars lower than here on Earth, and they did implement it as well in the game. Even though a great idea, it takes a bit getting used to. And that means that everything feels floaty, from driving to your standard run and gun moments. After you finish the game, you have the ability to return to finish side quests that you haven't done yet, and I think that's a great way to make sure that no building is standing anymore on Mars. Also, a great feature in this remastered version is that the multiplayer returns. Imagine all the chaos from the single player, but now with other players battling against each other. This is a tremendous plus, and it's definitely a strong addition in this remaster. Red Faction Guerrilla is still a great game to be played. Its destructibility is by far the best point, and it's still a joy to blow up buildings. The game could have used some small graphical update, however, but instead they leave you with nearly the same product as 9 years ago. It is not necessarily a bad thing. If you played the game long ago and have very fond memories of the game, then you should definitely buy this remastered version. But keep in mind that the game does show his age. If Red Faction was never your thing, then this remaster won't change your mind. Red Faction Remastered gets a 7.5 out of 10. Did you play the original and will you be buying this remastered edition? And are you still hoping for a sequel? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please hit that like button, and for more reviews and other videos check out the channel and maybe even subscribe. Thanks for watching and see you next time.